Hey everyone, this is Coach Adam here from Ippon Karate Dojo in Cochrane, Alberta. This is another Coach's Corner. Today I'm going to talk about how to set training habits. Last week we talked about habits, but this one is more about how long does it take to master a skill and what skill are you trying to work on and what does excellence and mastery of that skill look like to you. Now there is I think an objective level of mastery. Like we could say that, well, I can do a cartwheel, but a gymnast would put me to shame with a cartwheel. And do I have a level of mastery of it? No, I don't. But I can easily do a cartwheel. I have no problem balancing. For me, my level of cartwheel ability is right where I need it to be. However, for somebody who might be using that as a skill in an activity, my level of cartwheel would be laughably low. So we just had different expectations for ourselves in that certain skill. When it comes to martial arts training, I'm always trying to get myself to that maximum level that I can. I know I may never be the best in the world or the best in the country or any of those things. Even though I'm always striving to hit those goals, even in my competition career, I wanted to be national champion, I want to be world champion, all those things. But what I really am looking for now as a martial artist is a very high level of competence. The ability to use a skill almost as a reflex rather than a conscious thought. And that when I'm producing that skill, it has the desired outcome, enough power, enough speed, and it's not going to harm my body. So those are my goals for myself as a martial artist. And saying that, I take a look at, how do I train? Well, I had an interesting way of training as soon as I got to my teenage years, and which was about 80% on my own. I had some awesome instructors. I went to clubs that helped develop me at the highest level that they could, and then I took it on myself to train in between university classes, before school, after school, getting together with partners. And I continue to still do that in my practice today for karate, when I'm doing jiu-jitsu or any other training. I feel that it's my responsibility to take what I learn and to push it forward and to make it as excellent as possible, to really show that I can strive for perfection, but I'm not delusional in thinking that that I can never be perfect. But I'm always working that one step closer to it, 1% at a time. So when you're training at the dojo, you have to actually look at what is going on in the class that you're taking, and how does that relate to your goal. And almost always you're going to find some sort of crossover. So an instructor is 20 students in a class, 50 students, 100 students, 80 students, whatever they have, and they're trying to give as much as they can to each of those students. So most trainings are going to be general. They're not going to be specific, and they're not going to push you into that really high level of skill. It's very difficult for that to happen unless those classes are directly designed that way. For example, I'm lucky enough to have a facility that I am in 24/7 if I want to be. So some of my elite athletes can train on their own, and then we also have elite level classes for competitors, advanced classes for traditional, and then a bunch of recreational classes for those people who are just looking to become a competent martial artist and develop new skills. Because of my past experience, I've been able to develop my system that way. But it's not always possible for everybody. Depending where you live or what you train, you might not have that option. So you've got to rely on one person. That is you. So go to class with something in your head. You've got to work on something. You can't just go with an empty brain. You have to actually come in with a goal in mind. And then in between classes, you don't have to train for 5 hours a day to increase a skill. Okay, this is a good time for that tangent of the 10,000 hours to mastery from Gladwell. And though I think that overall it could be relatively true if you take all the practice, all the time put in, it does take a long time to master a skill. Efficiency matters. How you're training, what you're training, and what you're doing to improve are all going to cut that time down or add on to that time. So if you're training wrong, you're going in this direction, and you might have to add another 10,000 hours. If you're training correctly, maybe you can get it done in 5,000. So if you think about classes, they are designed to hit basic points to give us a level of understanding that will allow us to apply a technique and to help it work. But against a higher level opponent or in an elite situation, it's going to be more and more difficult. So how you're drilling, how you're training, how you're sparring, all are going to take this into effect. If you're doing a lot of hard sparring all the time, you're going to have a lot of injuries. When you're injured, you're never working at 100%. So you have to train hard and train smart. This has like always been my motto. The more intelligent the training, the better outcomes you're going to have, because then you're not relying just on that base talent. And that one talent we mean is always physical talent, but really there's so many other talents. The talents to be able to learn, to focus, to be dedicated and show up, to stay on task for an entire training, to be able to be a fun and nice enough partner that lots of people want to work with you, that you get a different variety of people, that you can trust them with your safety because they trust you with theirs. And these are all things that are going to help cut down that 10,000 hours. But the main thing is efficiency in looking at where your weak points are and where your strong points are. We have to raise the level of our weaknesses so that they're not so bad that we can't cope with them. But we also have to bring our strengths up as high as we can. If your strengths are at the maximum, those are your like natural talents. Those are natural abilities to overcome a situation, and they're so different for everybody, and only you're going to know how to do that in certain ways. Your coach is going to help you. They're going to know you really well. They're going to be like a second parent to you, likely, or a brother, a friend, whatever. But they are going to really get to know you. But at the end of the day, the only person who really knows you perfectly is yourself. So the more training that you do, the better you're going to get at making it more efficient. And then also, just being a good community member, you bring in those new skills back to your dojo, which helps bring everybody up. So I have this analogy of like, you've got a wet rag in the water, right? And if you think about your top skills, if you're trying to bring everything up together, it's not going to happen. You try to bring the whole rag up, it just sinks down. It becomes like this concave thing. But if you pull the top of the rag up, right, it lifts everything up. Now, your weaknesses might still be your weaknesses, but they're getting higher up as everything gets higher up, as you see that. So your strengths are going to be your strengths. Your weaknesses are going to be your weaknesses, but they can always improve. And I always think you should focus on developing your strengths because they will help to lift everything up. Don't ignore your weaknesses. They need to be trained as well. But you're going to be, being a specialist is going to be the generalist 9 times out of 10. Okay? That being said, you have to have certain general skills to be able to succeed. But even in a martial art, like mixed martial art, which is a generalized martial art where everything's fit together and everybody fights differently in different styles, there's people within those that are extreme specialists that were able to dominate. Think of Khabib, for example, right? Nobody could figure him out, but he was a complete specialist. Floyd Mayweather, he said, I don't train for other people, they train for me. And he had a specific game plan. Everybody can watch the footage of what he did. You could study him, and guess what? Nobody beat him because he was a specialist. So what does excellent mean to you? So you have to define your terms first. And then each step along the way, like we talked about last week, you're forming habits to become an efficient student. Okay? And then eventually that might make you an efficient teacher, or at least a peer that can help pass your knowledge along. So don't be afraid to get in there and try new things, try new study methods, look online at the dreaded Sensei YouTube, do your vetting, do your research, talk to your instructor, talk to your coach, and see just how you can improve during class and in between classes. Awesome work. See you next week.